It's time for some NBA season predictions, and on this episode, I'll give you my predictions. All signs are pointing to the Heat starting lineup getting a major change by the end of the season, plus why the Heat might have not seen the last of Precious Achiuwa.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, hello and welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com today to get started. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. Have a fun show for you today. We're going to do our annual Miami Heat season predictions, but this time, David, we're doing them a little bit differently. David and I each came up with so many predictions that we decided to split them into two different episodes. One with all of my predictions and one with all of David's predictions. This way, we could surprise each other, react in real time. We haven't seen each other's predictions, so this should be a lot of fun as we react to them live in person. And also, at the end of this season, will help us maybe even keep track of our predictions and see which one of us was just better at making these predictions, who was right about more things. So that's what we're going to do. I want to start, though, right off the top. So we'll do my predictions on this episode. David's on the next episode in part 2. I want to start right off the top with something newsworthy, because as we know, the Heat waived Precious Achiuwa after their final preseason game on Friday night to get back under the luxury tax. We haven't done a podcast since then, David, so worth mentioning that right at the top here. Not surprising, I think, that they did waive Achiuwa based on limited preseason action. Really didn't make much of an impact when he was out there. Yes, the Heat are going to be without much depth at center, but if it looks like Bam is going to be the starter and Kel'el Ware will be the backup as opposed to starting alongside with him, well then Bam and Kel'el will have most of those minutes down at center, and the Heat will try to get as far as they can without basically a third big. They still have Vlad Golden on that two-way, so like there's a break glass in case of absolute emergency, even though he got on the court even less than Precious did in preseason. But I do have a prediction tied to Precious Achiuwa here in a second. This does help them get under the luxury tax. Based on what Precious didn't really show in preseason, it shouldn't be that surprising, David, that he decided to move on. They said, you know what? Yes, we lack a little big man depth, but ultimately it was more important to get under the tax.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, though. At least the way I see it is those are the kind of cost-cutting moves that a team that doesn't view themselves in high regard kind of makes. Those are moves made by a group that isn't really trying to build the roster to win now. And maybe Precious Achiuwa isn't that player anyway. He's not necessarily going to contribute to winning at a high level, but you do want that kind of insurance. You're asking a lot of Bam. You're asking a lot of Ware. And as good as Nico might be, and whatever the potential for Golden could be, at least Achiuwa is an NBA player who has played some minutes before, and so you'd like to have him on the roster.
Yeah, I mean, you'd like to have him on the roster. You'd also like the luxury tax not to exist. But let's just jump right in to my prediction, because I actually do think that Precious Achiuwa will end up back on the roster. My prediction, number one, the Heat will re-sign Precious Achiuwa in December when his prorated minimum at that point would fit under the luxury tax. And we've seen this now already happen with the Warriors, or it's going to happen, I guess, reportedly with the Warriors and Seth Curry, where they signed him to an Exhibit 9 training camp deal, let him go through all of training camp and preseason, so he's there for the playbook install. He's able to kind of familiarize himself with Steve Kerr and everything that's going on with the Warriors, and then they cut him. They cut him over the weekend, but it's always been reported that, hey, we're cutting him now so that we can re-sign him later in the year when, in a similar way, like when his prorated minimum would fit under the tax, like we'll be able to go ahead and do that, or fit under the apron for them. We'll be able to go ahead and do that. But they're just sort of open and out there and doing it and saying what their plan is, which is very Warriors-y. Like, they just love to tell everybody what their plans are and how smart they are. With the Heat, they tend to be a lot more secretive. Like, maybe we're thinking about this, maybe we're not. I kind of think it's the same deal. I think they brought in Precious, go through the training camp install, go get some reps in the preseason, familiarize yourself with the system, because that way when we pick you back up later in the year, the learning curve isn't what it is. Like, you just went through, like, you were here on media day, dude. We already have the photos done, like, in the jersey. Like, it'll be seamless once they're able to pick him up in the middle of December. That's what I think. Maybe the plan wasn't always that. I don't want to, because I don't want to go so, because they signed him to a minimum contract as opposed to Seth Curry, who signed base an Exhibit 9, which is a different kind of deal. So maybe they were willing to say, you know what, if he really shows out in preseason and training camp, like, we'll just keep him on the roster and figure out the tax stuff later, because they don't have to get under the tax until the end of the year. But this always, to me at least, felt like the most plausible deal. It was something that I flagged as soon as it happened, and as soon as it was reported that Precious's deal was fully non-guaranteed, because he were able to waive him and not eat any of the costs. Right? They just pay him for a good training camp and say, hey, we'll see you later, maybe. So that's my first prediction, David. I think the Heat will re-sign Precious Achiuwa in December. They just got to get through now to then without any major setbacks at that center spot, whether it's injury or anything else.
So that's what my question was. Did you think that there was anything he could have done to really guarantee this? Because you have thought that this was a possibility almost immediately as soon as they brought him on the roster. And I agree that I don't know that there's anything. Had he done anything spectacular, and it's not like that's the kind of player that Achiuwa is anyway, there weren't and many opportunities for him to shine. And what capacity would he have been able to do so much? It's not like he was going to turn into a 50% three-point shooter overnight.
Right.
We haven't seen that at any point throughout his career. So there wasn't really much that he could have done to help his case, and he just didn't have much playing time. This was a team that was kind of just piecing things together during the preseason, and you know, he didn't really stand out in any particular way. So at the same time, like you said, I think he does provide some depth, and it would be good to bring him back later on. And if you can duck the luxury tax at the same time and still have a veteran that's familiar with the system and knows how to play and isn't necessarily a problem in the locker room or anything like that, why not bring in somebody like that? And if you don't, because maybe he signs with another team, then it really wouldn't be that big a deal.
Right. It's such a great point. Like, if some other team just swoops in and grabs him, it's not like the Heat are going to be like, oh man, you know, like they've dealt with him twice now and decided to move past him. Now, Eric Spoelstra did kind of leave it open when asked after practice on Sunday. He was kind of like, oh yeah, we'll see what happens down the road. So there's, I don't know. I wouldn't be, it's why it's my prediction. I would not be surprised if Achiuwa is on the roster by the end of the year. Here's my next prediction, David, sort of tied to this. So I think by waiving Precious, we also are kind of being signaled that with Jovic didn't play in the Friday preseason game, mostly because he was coming back from that lower back injury. And it's like, why play him in a preseason game and risk it? All signs are pointing to him being available for opening night on Wednesday night in Orlando. And it also signs point to, because there's not a whole lot of depth at center, Kel'el Ware remaining the backup and Jovic starting alongside Bam, at least to open the season. My next prediction, though, David, is that Kel'el Ware will end the season as a starter again for the second straight year. I was so impressed with Kel'el by the end of the preseason, David. I don't know how you couldn't be. Players who played in at least three preseason games in the entire NBA, Ware led all of them in rebounds with 11. He was fourth in points at 17.4 points per game. He looked like the best player on the team for stretches. Plus minus otherwise, right? Like, even with the minus 21, whatever it was in that first preseason game, like, he played really well down the stretch, and he continues to respond to Spo's hard coaching. And you got to appreciate that. And I think that with where Ware is, he is just so freaking talented and such a unique thing on this particular roster. It just feels like by the end of the year, he's going to be back in that starting lineup. Also, because we see how that affects Bam. And I think Eric Spoelstra is going to get to the point of, we just got to unlock Bam in another way. And having Kel'el Ware start alongside Bam, allowing Bam to attack smaller guys offensively, defensively, lean into his switching and his versatility a little bit more than he can all the time at the 5 spot. I just think that Kel'el Ware will earn that starting spot by the end of the year, and he'll be the starter by the end of the season.
So you don't think he'll start opening night, but does that change when Tyler Hero returns to the rotation?
It could, right? Like, maybe they're just waiting. That's a great, like, maybe when Hero comes back, whenever he comes back, which I might have that prediction later on too. Maybe at that point they say, well, now we have enough offense, right? Because we're going to start Hero and Powell, that maybe we could put Ware back in there. So maybe that's part of it too.
That's fair. Yeah, I could see that being the case where one player comes back and you have to have a trickle down effect where
you kind of reshuffle things.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, just I think he did have a solid preseason. It certainly bounced back after some strong coaching, and I think that he's got all the potential there to be able to make this a really good season for him. And I think I'm curious to see how it pans out, because he's got all that talent, and I mean, he does provide something on this roster that nobody else does, and hopefully he can tie it all together consistently enough.
Do you think it's Nico starting opening night too?
No, I think they go Kel'el, to be honest with you.
Wouldn't surprise me. All right, I got in my next round of predictions, including Kasperi Jonas. Is he going to have a bigger role than maybe we think this season? We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that reimagine and help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. The Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps. It suggests the right weights, and it corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. There are so many benefits by using Peloton. Their coaches are fantastic. They really get you motivated. And if you're willing to take your fitness goals to the next level, then Peloton is the thing for you. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. And that's why you start using Monarch. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. If you're looking to find a way of saving extra money, or maybe you're saving up for a big purchase down the road, there are so many different things that could come up over the course of your daily life. And you know what? Maybe you're making a plan for the future. Well, this is where Monarch comes in, because it tracks all of your spending and makes sure that you align with your goals and finds you a way to save more money so that you can get that house of your dreams. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarch.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Locked On Heat. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Going on with my next round of predictions here, David. Heat fans are going to get mad when the Nets trade Haywood Highsmith to the Hawks for 2 second-round picks. That's my next prediction. Haywood Highsmith recently, it was announced that he's going to be reevaluated in 8 weeks. There was a setback with his recovery to an injury, so Heat looked like they might have dodged a bullet there, but ultimately, the Heat had to trade Highsmith and attach a second-round pick to him to get under the tax. They traded him to the Brooklyn Nets. And I do still think that even with this 8-week setback for Haywood, he should be back before the trade deadline. As a 3-and-D guy, I just think that some team, I'm saying the Hawks, it'll be some team. I just picked a team that maybe could use him. But I think some team will offer the Nets 1 or 2 second-round picks. Haywood Highsmith will get traded midseason, and Heat fans are going to be left being like, wait, we had to attach a second-round pick to get off of this guy, and this team got something for him? Like, this is crazy. They ended up netting 2 or 3 second-round picks for Haywood Highsmith. Heat fans will be upset, and we'll have to talk about it on this podcast.
Yeah, there's no doubt we'd have to talk about it. Yeah, I mean, there's a contender who will look to Haywood Highsmith. I think if he shows something of value, though, because, again, I think part of the problem is that Miami tends to be viewed around the league as a team that builds up their role players to such a degree that once they join other teams, they lose whatever it is that they've accomplished here in Miami. So you wonder whether or not other teams will look at Haywood and go, can he replicate what he did in the Heat with the Heat? Is he going to be a 40% three-point shooter? Is he going to continue to be a solid wing defender? I think those questions will be answered pretty closely once he does return to action. And I think he's going to be able to show that he was a pretty solid role player in Miami. He's going to continue to be a solid role player moving future for any team. So if it's a contender looking to shore up their perimeter defense and maybe add a little 3-and-D wing, he certainly fits the bill.
I was thinking Lakers, but they just don't have, I think maybe they have 1 second-round pick, and it's all the way out in 2032. And it's like, if you're Brooklyn, like, what do we care? What do we care about your 2032 second-round pick? That's why I ended up trying to find teams that had multiple second-round picks that are a little bit more immediate, that could also have a need for Haywood Highsmith. And you're right, he's going to have to show something in this 8-week setback. Definitely hurts that. So maybe Heat fans won't be mad, and Haywood just ends up finishing the year in Brooklyn, and we don't have to do a podcast on it. My next prediction. Kasperi Jonas is going to play more games than Drew Smith this year. I think Spo's going to realize that he needs Kaz's passing, and that as much as even Spo loves Drew Smith and that skill set, it's a little redundant of Davion Mitchell. And it just feels that like when Hero's back and this team is more healthy, it just feels that like some point you're going to have to make a decision. It's like, all right, Davion Mitchell or Drew Smith. And it's like maybe you don't always have to make a decision. Like there is something to be said of, when Davion can't play 48 minutes, right? So it's like when Davion goes out, Drew Smith comes in, and you always sort of have this trusted point of attack defender. And I quite like that. And I think that's how the Heat are going to start the year. But then once Hero comes back, I think this team is going to get off to a rough start offensively. At some point, Eric Spoelstra is going to have to make an offense versus defense decision where he has to trade a little bit of defense for some offense. And I think that's when you're going to see Kasparas Giacochonis maybe enter the lineup. I don't think it'll be right away in terms of regular nightly minutes playing more than Drew Smith. But I think by the end of the year, Kaz is going to end up having played more games than Drew Smith.
I mean, that would be impressive. We've just never seen rookies get that kind of treatment before from Eric Spoelstra. And while they do appreciate, we've just never seen Eric Spoelstra be able to focus or play a rookie with those extended minutes. And while they appreciate the fact that he has that dog mentality and his tenacity and everything else like that, I just don't see how there's a clear path to Kaz being able to get those kind of significant minutes. I'd like to see it. I think that's the future. I just don't know that he's quite ready. I mean, we saw the passing, and as long as he embraces, and we know this is a huge thing for Eric Spoelstra, he has to embrace the off the court work, like doing all the stuff behind the scenes that we don't get to see. Whatever he does in games is one thing, but it's the practices that really will help define how much time he gets and whether or not he continues to push his game to the next level, and if he's able to earn more significant playing time, because it's certainly a possibility. It's just one that I have some questions about, but we'll see. It could work out that way, and I'd like to see it.
I should note that I should have said this at the top. My predictions are supposed to get bolder and bolder. So by the end of this thing, I'm going to have a very, very, very bold prediction. But the predictions are getting bolder and bolder on purpose. So
this is a Scoville test, like the Scoville levels of heat on hot sauces and stuff like that. So like you're like at a 5. This is like hot ones or whatever.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think, like, we're definitely above like Tapatio or something. Like, okay. I think that was maybe more at the beginning.
Yeah.
This is like a nice, like one of the, it's like on hot ones where they're just like, oh wow, yeah, I'm tasting it now.
Like, heat on that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of heat on that one. Yeah. What is that, pineapple? Like that's pretty good. That's where we're at. That's where we're at with Kaz. There's also, and I hate to say it, but there's always the possibility of Drew Smith getting hurt, and this one just kind of ending up being true because of that. I hate to say it. I shouldn't have even said it. Anyway, my next prediction. A little bit hotter in the Scoville rating here. The Heat will sign Norman Powell to a 2-year, $60 million extension after the trade deadline.
Wow.
With a team option for 2027, 2028. So I think they'll front load the contract, make it nice and sweet for Powell so that he accepts taking a team option. $30 million annual average value. I think that's a bit of an overpay, but it's what you pay to make sure that you get that team option that second year, because we know that Miami's also targeting the summer of 2027. But if you extend Norman Powell after the trade deadline, because I think they'll wait until after the trade deadline just to see what happens if there's something happening in Milwaukee or another team potentially where they might need to use Norman Powell in that trade. But I think after the deadline, they sign him to that extension. It's a 2-year deal. It's not a 4-year deal. So you don't end up with these extended trade restrictions where if you sign a 4-year deal over a certain amount of money, you can't get traded for 6 months. You trade him you sign him to a shorter term extension here. He's trade eligible right away as soon as the offseason starts. So that they have that option open. He's more tradable now that he's on a contract extension, right? Any other team that potentially wants to get him next offseason doesn't have to deal with the Norm Powell extensions. He's already locked in to maybe a bit of an overpay, but still a team-friendly deal because it has a team option on that second year. And I think for Powell, he says, cool, I've never made $30 million in my life. This is great. I'll take it. I'm in. I like it in Miami. I'm under contract. There's no guarantee I'm going to get moved. It's a nice deal, I think, for both sides, and I think it makes sense. And I also think Norm Powell is going to play really well to that point where the Heat are going to say, you know what, we kind of like to have Norm Powell around.
Yeah, he fits the bill. Like the kind of player that they like adding. A consummate professional, never been a problem, does his work, continues to improve and show something. And I think if he has that strong start that we believe he might, it does make a lot of sense. And it's a cost-friendly move, and also a chance to continue keeping talent on the roster and you're a team that's desperately in need of offense, and if he can provide that, then I don't see why they wouldn't reward him. And I think it's a good faith measure that goes a long way for Norman and also for the Heat to make sure that they keep everything intact and also retain that flexibility that that they want to keep for any potential plans in the future.
I want to go to a break here because on the other side of it, David, my spiciest, highest ranking Scoville takes. I'm telling you, from the jump, we're getting into the bomb territory here.
Wow.
With the next 3 predictions. It's coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss because right now new customers can bet just $5. You get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. You pick a bet, you put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. You'll love how FanDuel gives you so many ways to play. You can build parlays, you can try player props, you can even follow the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. And whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Try FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Basketball season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache. Between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout, it's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on the team. And that's where Game Time comes in, the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Game Time does things so easily. A friend of mine used them to grab tickets for a recent Heat game. You're going to love using it. It's so fantastic. And you can save money. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply, but that's code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. All right. Get the milk ready, David. Here we go. Next prediction. The Heat are going to go on a 12-game win streak heading into the All-Star break.
Wow.
Let me just read you this part of the schedule. So we've talked a lot about how the start of the schedule is brutal for this team. I think we talked about maybe going 7-14, 8-13 at best through the first 21 games. But the flip side of that is there are pockets of the schedule for Miami as the season goes on that are like, you're like, whoa, okay. Like we can really make up some of these wins because we kind of got a lot of these tough games out of the way early. So let me read you the final 12 games before the Heat go into the All-Star break. Starting on January 20th in Sacramento. That's a dub. January 22nd in Portland. That's a dub. January 24th at Utah. That's a dub. In Phoenix. That's a dub. You come home for a 4-game homestand, Orlando, Chicago, Atlanta. A couple tough games there for sure. But after that West Coast trip, we've seen this Heat team do this, right? They go on the West Coast, they find something, they build some momentum, they come home feeling good, and they go on a little bit of a run. So I have them winning those games where they have nice rest advantages against those teams. I feel good about it. They go on, they continue the win streak. We're at 8 now. In Boston, right after that 4-game homestand, I do not believe in the Celtics this year. I think they will have 0 home court advantage. I don't think they'll be good. And no, I do not think Jason Tatum will be back by then. That's a dub. Washington, dub. Utah, dub. New Orleans, by then Zion Williamson will be hurt, dub.
Wow.
Those are the 12 games, and then that's the All-Star break. And then, by the way, at the end, at Atlanta, when they come out, at Atlanta, Memphis, Milwaukee, it gets a little bit tougher. So I have I have a 12-game win streak heading into the All-Star break, the Heat being one of the biggest NBA storylines around also whatever happens at the trade deadline. At that point, like, hey, are the Heat for real? It's going to be leading ESPN segments. It's going to be all over the place. 12-game win streak. Very high Scoville rating on this bold prediction.
Yeah, that's ghost pepper. I mean, it's
yeah, just wait.
My eyes are watering. Yeah, wow. The thing about that take is that it's achievable, but it also presumes that this Heat team, like similar to what we've seen in the past, can beat those teams that they're supposed to beat. Like you make it seem like, oh, that's a dub. I don't know about that. I mean, Utah could be spicy. They could be a team that just makes things difficult.
Have you seen that roster?
Have you seen Miami's roster? People are saying the same thing.
Markkanen will be traded by then. They love to bench their good players when they. If anybody starts playing well, just trust Utah to be like, nope, you have a hamstring strain today.
I don't know. I could see Walker Kessler somehow dominating in that game or something like that.
And if he does, they'll pull him in the second quarter. They're trying to tank. Look, obviously it's very bold. Like, you're right. Like, to predict a 12-game win streak, that's an insane win streak. 12 games is a lot. I don't know the last time the Heat won 12 games in a row. LeBron? Like, I really don't know.
Just feel like sometime.
It's been a while. And they do have to take care of business. But the one thing I do like about this Heat team is that the guy at the top of the roster, you never have to worry. It's like, is it an on night or is it an off night for him? And I think that this team will take the regular season more seriously and take these kinds of opponents a little bit more seriously than they have in the past. I just think they're built that way, and frankly, they have to. Like, they can't afford it, right? There was always this sort of, like, carrot dangling over here of, let's just get to the playoffs, and then Jimmy will be Jimmy, and then, it doesn't really matter. Like, they can't afford to do that now. They can't afford to play with their food, right? And maybe I'm giving this roster too much credit. Like, they're going to have to go out and win these games for sure. It's not just a matter of taking it seriously or not. They actually have to be better than the other team, and that's not going to always be the case, even on this 12-game streak here. But it's bold predictions, and I gave you a bold prediction. All right, my next one. Because of that 12-game win streak, the Heat are going to finish with 48 wins, and Eric Spoelstra is going to win Coach of the Year, finally.
Wow.
For the first time. Let's go. We're not quite to bomb yet. I got one bolder one after this. But 48 wins is quite the hot take here. FanDuel's over-under has Miami at 38.5. I think that's disrespectfully low for this team, but that's where it is. And then you look at most projection systems. ESPN has them at 40. You see other projection systems have at 41 wins. You look at people mostly peg this as a 40 to 41 win roster. And the Tyler Hero injury obviously impacts that and all these things. And when he comes back can dramatically influence what this ends up being. But they go 37 and 45 last year. I think people are basing most of the projections off of last year, but I don't think what you could build into these projection systems is Jimmy Butler trying to ruin their season for 2 months. And that's not even like a Jimmy Butler hater thing. Like, that is a fact. Like, he rage quit on the team in January. That entire thing was such a mess from the beginning of the season. People think it started January 1st. It did not. That was a mess from the start. From media day where he showed up late. Like, it was just like this drama overclouding everything else that was going on in Miami. And I just think without that and with a little bit of fresh air, I think just that alone is worth 5 wins. And I do think the Heat roster is better. And then here's the other thing, David. We want to get more statistical analysis stuff. They were 14 and 28 in clutch games last year. That is almost impossibly bad for a team that made the playoffs. If you were just normal in clutch situations, just normal, you win 50% of them instead of 25% of them. How many, like, that's worth so many wins. So I just think between just normalization between the clutch situations, no Jimmy Butler, it would not shock me if this team won 9 more games in the year before. So that's what I have. 48 wins, and then Spo finally wins Coach of the Year because you look at this roster and everything that they came out of, and everybody's like, you know what? It's time to give Spo the award.
Yeah, that would be the right narrative. I think we saw that with Bickerstaff in Detroit, taking a team that had lost a lot of games the year before, and with an improved roster, he started to get a lot of buzz, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I
think it would be a little bit of like a lifetime achievement award, which I'm okay with because Spo deserves it.
Absolutely. He should have gotten it several times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the curiosity for me here is to see how this team approaches the season, because like you made the point about Jimmy and the distractions and everything else like that. And we've never seen this roster in terms of how they view the season. Like, it's always been for year one. And I've talked about the conflicting timelines ever since Jimmy joined the team in 2019. They were always on 2 separate timelines because he made the team far better than they expected to be. And their whole plan was, well, maybe we can make a run for Giannis in a couple of seasons or whatever. That never quite panned out. So they were always too good to be bad and not good enough to be viewed as title contenders. But now this is different. No Jimmy on this team. No who's going to save us. Oh, we know we can get to the playoffs, as you said, and we'll have an opportunity there. All we need is a chance. No, you don't. You don't need a chance. You have to make your own chances. You've got to do this on your own. You've got to create this opportunity for yourselves. And you're not going to be able to figure that out in the playoffs. You just don't have that luxury. You're not good enough. And so whatever team you're going to be, you have to be able to decide that and build that identity over the course of the 82 game regular season. And so how they view that growth is going to be such a huge thing. And I'm very curious to see how this team kind of embraces that with Bam and eventually Tyler, and to some degree, guys like Wiggins, Powell, et cetera, kind of stepping up and understanding their roles and taking on more of a leadership role. Because I think that's another big thing, is that there's a leadership gap at the top here, because Jimmy, for all of his flaws, would at least carry you on his back and say, all right, I'll go and take you there. Even if he has to take the ball out of your hands in order to do it, he's going to take you there. And I don't know who does that on this current roster.
Yes, and the East sucks. And there's so many just wins to grab. Like I did a first pass on the schedule, and like I said, I went 7-14 for the first 21 games, just trying to really just quick blink test predictions. I ended up with Miami at like 50 or 51 wins, which I understand is way optimistic, and I do not think that that's going to be the case. And I was being optimistic when I was kind of doing it. I was trying to be optimistic when I was doing it. I was like, wow. And even I didn't expect 50 wins at that point. So I'm going a few less here. I'm going with 48. And we can't have it both ways, right? Like people the East is wide open, but also like Miami is no good and all this. Like, is the East wide open? Are there just wins to be had for these middle of the pack Eastern Conference teams? Like, I think we know who's at the top of the Eastern Conference. But then you have this pack of like Miami, Chicago, Toronto, Philadelphia, Indiana, Boston, just sort of like all in that kind of middle class tier of the East. One of those teams is going to pop. One of those teams is like guaranteed, almost mathematically has to. One of these teams is going to win more games than we think. I don't think it'll be Boston. I think they're going to win fewer games than we think. Indiana, who knows with Tyrese Halliburton out? Like, I have no idea. Philadelphia could win 55 games. They could win 5. I have no idea what to make of the 76ers. I don't trust Toronto. I don't trust Chicago. If you look at Miami, you're like, okay, they got Bam, Tyler Hero come back. Wiggins' championship experience. They got Spo. There's infrastructure, some nice young players that we like. If you get elite, like, I'm not necessarily saying it's going to happen, right? This is on the bold predictions part of the boldest predictions part of the podcast for a reason. But you look at that group and you're like, why not Miami? Against those other teams. So,
well, that's what a prediction is. I mean, you kind of are saying that. I mean, you also started off the season saying the Dolphins were going to go undefeated. So, I mean,
I don't think I said undefeated. I did tweet that I thought they were going to push for a playoff spot. So,
not looking good so far.
So maybe not the best part of my resume here when it comes to my predictions abilities. Final one here, David.
You got another one. Even more scolding hot than that.
This one is the bomb times 12.
Wow. Jeez.
Last one. The Heat will sign LeBron James off a buyout in January.
Oh my God.
Buyout. All right, let me explain it. All right. What's going on right now in Los Angeles and LeBron James? Sciatica? Not sure I buy it. He had that weird press release thing with Rich Paul saying like a whole lot of nothing, but a whole lot of something, right? It was like, hey, we understand what the Lakers are doing and all this stuff. They didn't sign me to the extension and all this, whatever. It's okay. And everybody's talking about LeBron. He's just going to wait until next year when he's a free agent. He'll make a decision then. He would love to end his career with the Lakers and all these things. And I do believe all of that. But I also believe this. LeBron doesn't – every 6 months matters for him. He's not on a season-to-season basis anymore. At this age, for LeBron, like what he decides to do in the middle of the year could impact his legacy. Like it could be the last good half season he has left of his career. Who knows, right? But like – we're already seeing he's not going to be ready for opening night. Age is starting to creep in, like it or not. So this isn't the LeBron that played for Miami once before. But I still think a healthy LeBron James is the best player on this roster. And by January, maybe there's some scuttle in Los Angeles. Hey, you know what? We're really pretty happy with what we're doing with Luka and the direction. We don't really need LeBron anymore. We actually kind of prefer not to have him around.
I could see.
And LeBron just being like, you know what? I can go take my talent somewhere else, choose a spot, and go compete. now. A lot of people, why wouldn't he go to the Cavaliers? They'll be at the top of the Eastern Conference. That's a better roster than the Heat. Yes, 100%. Would be a way better spot for LeBron James. Cavs can't buy him out. The Cavs can't pick him up, though, on a buyout because they're over the second apron. And under the second apron rules, teams are prohibited from signing players who were bought out by other teams if that player's pre-waiver salary was higher than the non-taxpayer mid-level exception, with LeBron obviously making the max. Clearly, that's higher. So even if LeBron did get bought out and was willing to play for the Cavaliers for $1, the Cavaliers would not be allowed to do it based on what LeBron's previous salary was. Cavs cannot do it in the middle of the year. They could trade for him. They cannot. And by the way, it's almost impossible for them to trade for him because they're also over the second apron. So it's not happening. LeBron will not be heading to Cleveland in the middle of the year. The Heat, meanwhile, are under the luxury tax, have zero restrictions. Where else is LeBron going to go if he gets bought out in the middle of the year? Why not Miami? And push this team over the top in a wide open Eastern Conference where LeBron James has had nothing but success. That's my hottest take. Prediction.
I feel like I need some aloe vera with that burn there. I mean, that's unbelievable. Or Tums, I don't know, depending on where.
All of it.
Yeah, all of it. I just can't see him getting bought out. I mean, I understand the timeline. I suppose. For that, he might as well join the Clippers too, though, right? I mean, they're already in Los Angeles. He's played for Ty Lue.
I think they also have I don't know. Are they a second apron team?
That's Steve Ballmer. Kawhi Leonard's going to get voided. I mean, Kawhi Leonard's contract is going to get voided anyway. So
they just replaced LeBron. That's even spicier that they replaced Kawhi with LeBron. Whoa. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's some other teams, but you could potentially maybe join the Knicks if they clear some cap space. That's out there. Maybe he goes to Chicago and the heir to Michael Jordan finally, or maybe he goes to the Washington Wizards. Just kidding. But no, I just what? Why not? LeBron back to Miami, warm weather, middle of the year, can help them push for a playoff spot. Super soft schedule, like we talked about in the second half. You could join right before that 12-game win streak. And then the Heat are off and running. They end up with a top 6 seed in the East, and then who knows? LeBron makes one more run.
Makes sense.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
All right, that'll do it for my predictions. Thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Stick around for part 2 where David makes his bold Miami Heat predictions for the season.